Every great project begins with a run to Home Depot. Normally I would have the store cut down my wood, but because this project have a lot of pieces involved, I'd rather cut them at home to make sure they're precise. Thankfully my car is able to fit up to 8 feet of wood, so I can transport them and cut them at home. I'm going to be cutting down all the wood I need to the exact measurements, so I'll have all the pieces ready when I need to assemble it. This is a lot of repetitive, straightforward cuts. I'll be linking the video in the description below to the tutorial that I am using to make this table. I normally like to cut my pieces first before sanding them down, in case in the process of cutting them it splinters the wood and I'll have to resand them anyways. Hey guys! So yesterday I cut down all of the pieces of wood needed to make the coffee table and the mug wall, and I sanded everything down, and then I stopped for the night. So today I'm gonna try to put it together, and instead of doing it in my garage that is super cold and not insulated, I'm just gonna try to put it together in my living room here. I think I'll be a little bit more comfortable and warmer in here. So I'm just gonna go and bring all of the wood from my garage here, and we're gonna start putting them together and see how that goes. First, I'm going to start by building the 2 sets of legs for the sides of the coffee table. I'll also be using wood glue on top of screws to give it that extra strength and stability. The screws that I'll be using are considered to be self-tapping, which means they don't require any pre-drilling. However, I was having a really hard time getting them to screw into the wood without pre-drilling, so I ended up having to take out my drill set and pre-drill every hole that I'm putting the screws in. After completing one set of the legs, I repeated the process and created the second one. I am placing the 2 pieces of legs on a piece of plywood to create a level surface so I can attach them together. Using the long pieces of 2x2, these are going to be the horizontal support that connects the 2 legs of the table. hard time getting the last piece of wood to fit flush for me to screw it in, so I had to turn it and use gravity to help me here. This project was a little bit harder to do alone because you don't have someone there to help you hold the pieces in place while you're screwing it. But it's definitely doable, and if I can do this alone, you can totally do it too. After completing the structure of the table, I'm going to be working on the decorative X's on the side. I didn't pre-cut this one. Instead, I'm going to be taking a long piece of 2x2 and placing it against the edge of the table, marking where I need to make the cuts to give me a more precise angle. Because these are more decorative pieces than they are for structural integrity, I'm just going to be placing one screw at an angle on the top and one at the bottom to hold them in place. Before laying down the tabletop boards, I'm going to be attaching another piece of support wood in the center of the coffee table. This will give me another thing to screw the tabletop into to make it extra secure. Now I'm going to be laying out my tabletop boards. I'm going to keep the best side of the boards facing down and the side that I'm going to screw in and hide facing up towards me. The reason for this is because I'm going to flip the frame of the coffee table upside down so I can screw the frame into the tabletop boards from the bottom. This way you won't see any of the screws coming out from the top. I only used one screw per plank to attach the underside to the tabletop boards, but I really wish I had used two, because after turning the table over, the planks were a little bit wobbly from only having one screw hold it in place. After finishing securing the tabletop, the last step will be to screw in the wood pieces to create the shelf at the bottom of the table. To help me hold the wood pieces in place for me to secure them and make sure they're evenly spaced, I placed a piece of 2x2 underneath to help elevate the pieces and get it aligned with the edge of my table. Then I'm just eyeballing the spaces between the boards, and when they look good to me, I started to secure them in place. To finish out this coffee table, I went back and covered all the screw holes with wood filler just because I wanted to give it that clean look, and then I let the wood filler dry before sanding it down and staining it. Here it is. I just applied the wood glue to all the visible holes. I'm gonna let that dry. This, I think, took about 6 hours in total today to complete. It was a lot longer than I expected, but I'm so happy it's done. While the wood filler is drying before I can sand it down, I think I'm gonna start making the mug wall that my cousin really wanted. She sent me a photo of what it looks like, and I'm gonna try to recreate it. So I already cut down these wood panels. I think they're about 12 inches wide, and I'm gonna make the vertical support to hold them together. I'm just gonna measure that out and then start putting down these hooks that I bought on Amazon here, and we'll see how that goes. After cutting the vertical supports, I screwed them using one screw per plank. I recommend starting with one screw in the middle and then working from the outside in so that your pieces doesn't move too much. I am laying out the hooks for the mugs because I wanted to make sure there are ample space on the sides and above and below for the mugs to sit without hitting each other. I'm also only using 15 hooks because that's the exact number that my cousin wanted on this wall. If you notice, I am purposely placing the top hooks closer to the top, the bottom hooks closer to the bottom, and the middle hook stays in the center to maximize the space between the mugs. A common problem I was reading when I was looking at the Etsy mug wall my cousin sent me was there not enough space between the mugs for them to fit comfortably, and I wanted to make sure that this wasn't going to be a problem for this mug wall, especially since not all mugs are made equally. As a final piece for the coffee table, I'm going to be adding on these decorative black corner braces. This was really easy to put on and it didn't require any pre-drilling. I really like the contrast between the black metal braces against the wooden coffee table. This table is a lot heavier than I expected, but it is very stable and it turned out beautifully. Compared to the table that I built myself 3 years ago, it's like night and day. I almost wanted to keep this table instead, but after putting everything together here, this is what the result looks like. Just to give you a comparison, here is the table I made a couple of years ago when we first moved in. It's a lot more bare bones and not as pretty as the farmhouse one, but I'm a little reluctant to change it because my dog Ribbon really likes to take naps under there and she's always laying under me.